What I'm going to do here is I'm going to just go ahead and, as people are getting on here, good morning, Russ. I'll go ahead and let John take it away and talk to us a little bit about the fantastic audio conflict resolution. Go ahead, John.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Give me a thumbs up. Make sure everybody can hear me okay. Perfect. Perfect. So I'm going to start out with a couple of stories. I got permission to share. My daughter works at a national store for kids' clothing at a retail, and she's been one of the managers there for over a year. So she came home one night, frustrated a little bit, told me this story about how the manager, the main manager of the store, had an issue with something that didn't get done the night before, and it was Jesse, my daughter's shift, and so she started to complain about it to another manager, and another manager heard it, and then next thing you know, the associates heard it. So pretty much before Jesse even knew there was an issue, the entire store knew about it. And so the main manager that had the issue was going to talk to Jesse when Jesse came back to work, but she was on a long weekend, and one of her associates that kind of a friend with Jesse told her about this problem, and so Jesse came and approached me and said, what do we do? And I said, well, she's like really concerned that, it wasn't like what Jesse did was extremely bad. I think she didn't clean something up or, finish up the process because it went into overtime. But needless to say, it needed to be addressed. But this manager took it upon and shared it with everybody else rather than dealing it directly with my daughter. So Jesse and I sat down and we said, well, you got two issues. You can either go in on Tuesday and deal with it when you're getting shift, or call her up on your Monday, you're off, go in and start, and say, hey, I need to talk to you about this problem. And so Jesse did, and talked it over with the manager, and, had points already set up. And the manager actually appreciated it and apologized to Jesse, and Jesse went straight and dealt with it. And at that point, Jesse was having some issues with her schedule, and she had about three things: pay and a couple others. Well, Jesse went in, talked about it, addressed all these things, and the funny part was she forgot to ask for a pay raise because she got everything else except she didn't ask for a pay raise. So that was kind of one issue, but she learned that, dealing with the issue at hand, letting it fester was not a good thing. And so taking it straight on and addressing it professionally definitely paid off in her advantage there. And that manager definitely started to see, the leadership role that Jesse was taking as part of one of the managers. And then she did have one other incident with another coworker, an associate, had an issue with Jesse's age and being the manager and taking direction from a 20-year-old when she was a little bit older. And Jesse found out because, again, it went through the grapevine, if you will, the gossiping mongers of the store. And that's how Jesse found out that there was an issue, that she wouldn't take any direction from Jesse as the manager of the store. Just because of her age. And so Jesse brought it to the store manager and says, I'm going to deal with this. And Jesse took it upon herself and took her aside and talked to her and says, listen, age has nothing to do with it. This is my title. This is your title. If you don't like it, you have choices. So the store manager did finally recognize that, Jesse was taking on this leadership role, and it was quite amusing on my part to watch my daughter evolve into this leader and taking on, these hard tasks. People are going to be the biggest problem. We're in a people business, right? And if you eliminated the people, the business would run perfectly. But our job is to develop people. And so, I've taken. Listening to the CD was fantastic, but I've kind of went a little bit beyond the CD, and so I've been reading the Conflict Resolution, the 8 Vital Principles, And one of the things that Orrin Woodward, talks about is that, expect conflict and be prepared to resolve it. We are in a people business. We don't want conflict, but the reality is it's going to happen. And so one of the things that I saw in here is as a leader, you want to adopt the right mindset. You want to be able to have the mindset that if a conflict comes up, that, you deal with it right away. Orrin Woodward in one of the here says, it says, how you maintain key relationship is critical in your ability to lead. Hurt feelings, which lead to conflict, start when one's expectation of another person's commitment and responsibility are left unfulfilled. If I had such high expectation of Darren, or if I expected something more than Darren understood, then guess what? I'm going to be the one let down, because it's my expectation on another person. This is my business. My expectation should be set based on my performance, not based on my leader's performance. The expectation is unless it's communicated up front with each other, then you're going to be let down. And that's just a fact, because if I set those expectations, it's not going to be fulfilled. And Orrin Woodward, I'll read one more part here. It says, sitting down quickly with the other party, lovingly addressing the situation and apologizing for your role in the mix-up will do wonders in restoring the bond of friendship. And this will strengthen the speed of trust in your relationship. And The Speed of Trust is another book that was written that is a fantastic book that goes along with this. But the reality is that, we're all humans, and we all have our different expectation, and then things get out of control because of communication and not having a a mutual expectation, if you will, of the parties involved. And so, and like my daughter's two examples, if she let that fester and didn't address it, it would make the situation a lot more difficult, and I find that has become a true statement. These last couple of weeks, we've been dealing with some. It's all right. It's just my wife. She just dumped the cabinet out of the plastic cups. She's safe. She's all good. So anyways, we've been dealing with some issues out here, personal relationships with some folks, and a lot of things were going back and forth in texting, just, to certain document things, but realizing that texting was just a small piece of it. When we finally met with the person, and we aired out and we understood what the concerns were, and our expectations all kind of settled back down into place, and we started actually, moving forward. And, one of our sayings at my bucket carrying job is, are you making progress today? Are you taking a step forward, or are you taking a step back? And so when we met with the person, we definitely took several steps forward. But that wouldn't have happened if we didn't clear the air and had a good one-on-one, face-to-face communication. If she continued to let it fester, or I continued to let it fester, all it did was it would just get worse. Emotions would get hurt. And so having to deal with it up front is so vital to it. And, again, as a leader, you're going to expect conflict, and because we're a people business, like I said earlier. So as a leader, to adopt the right mindset so that you can deal with it. And there was a CD that Orrin Woodward had a couple, but bad news just does not get better with age. A fine wine gets better with age, but bad news does not. So if you've got a concern, and again, we're all here developing our business, and not one of us is going to go out and sabotage the business, because it only hurts not only, if I was to go out and maliciously do something to my downline, that's only going to hurt me, and that's going to ultimately hurt the team. And I'm going to make a ton of mistakes as I'm growing this business. And no different than Darren has made a ton of mistakes with us, and have apologized and said, I don't know what I was thinking, but for whatever reason, we took certain steps, and I know that I could have taken two roads. I could have taken the road of just being mad at him because he told me to do something, I did it, and it cost me money. Or I could have take a road that says, you know what, we tried this, it didn't work. We're new at this. In the Northwest, we don't have a lot of connections, so we're kind of like stumbling all over ourselves. And I know that in Darren's heart, it wasn't malicious. So I know that it was just a lesson learned that we all took something from and moved forward. Every one of us on this call here today does not have a malicious part in your heart. Now, not to say that, we haven't made our own mistakes and that might have impacted somebody's business. I know I've done that to one of my downlines on my second leg. I went out and I didn't do a good enough job showing the plan. I said some stupid things, and the lady just caught on one of the words that didn't like it, and she just didn't sign up. But that wasn't because, I was trying not to get her signed up, obviously. So, again, as you're a leader, understand the situation and understand who you're dealing with. If you have an issue with it, talk it out. Don't text, don't phone, because you have to give your leaders or your downline the respect of, they're not coming at you maliciously. They might be coming at you with very good intention, but with just kind of a wrong thinking, wrong mindset a little bit, and resolve that issue. Because the scenario I was talking about with here, it just grew too big and got too ugly before we actually did a sit down talk. So conflict is never a good thing to deal with, but it's something we have to do. And we will do it, and it'll, and as leaders, and as our team gets bigger, as your team grows to your second leg, to your third leg, you're going to be dealing with more conflict, because your leaders are going to be coming to you as the main leader of your business and say, hey, I've got this problem. And then you need to be able to, either direct them or help them resolve these conflict, and again, I think our group here is, passionate about making this work, and our mistakes are maliciously driven. It just, just simple, common mistakes. So, well, I took up 15 minutes. I think I'm good, and I know that Beth, I don't see her phone number anymore. Oh, there it is. 14. There you go. All right, Beth, you're on.
Hi, thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to add something I told Dawn she said I should share, and that's women in general have a tendency to hold a grudge or sometimes not forgive someone or resolve their conflict right away with them. And I was telling her it's like carrying around a bag of rocks. And it doesn't hurt the other person, it hurts yourself by doing that. And the only way to get rid of that is to sit down and resolve it right away, like Orrin was saying. And then from the other side, he was talking about if you gossip, about other people, instead of going to that person and trying to resolve it. And melancholies like me have a tendency to kind of do that, air their laundry. And he was saying that one way to stop them in their tracks from the gossiping is to call them out on it and say, can I quote you on that? And I found another thing that really helps with that is to compliment the person that they're gossiping about or complaining about. And that helps to, make them think about that other person and their feelings. Because in general, we know they're a good person. We're just having a conflict with them. So that was just all I wanted to say.
Perfect.
I thought it was an excellent audio.
Great. Thanks, Beth. And I appreciate you saying, stuff, because those are very important, and so Angie.
Hi. I don't know how to actually raise my hand on the computer, so I have to go old school. I had a hard time with the CD, and I think part of it is what she just said. I am a woman. My bucket filling job is teaching, so I teach with a lot of women, and then I'm also supposed to be teaching little people how to solve conflicts. And so I had to keep stopping, rewinding, and writing, and stopping and rewriting. And so finally, when I was able just to listen to it after I had notes, I still was in my sidelines reading notes. And there was Orrin had said, failure to plan is a plan to fail. And we've all heard that, there's signs everywhere. But that just, it really hit me that this business, Life Leadership, man, I wish I would have had this 10 years, 20 years ago. Planning to fail is just not having a plan. And, all of these CDs, every time I have a CD, I'm like, oh gosh, I wish I would have had this when. I wish I would have had this when. And it was, falls right into that plan. And having everyone here, when I'm having a conflict, say, hey, what CD could I go listen to help me with this? Or what book would you refer to this? Because we know that conflict is it's a given. Everyone's going to have conflicts. And being able to look at that little fire that's lit in the corner and going and putting it out instead of just waiting for the whole house to burn down and go, okay, well, do I just keep setting that house back on fire, or do I clean it up? Do I, and what to do? But it's just why we're in this business is because we are refusing to plan for failure. We're having a plan, and just that association with like-minded people. I wish that it would have been that much more obvious, or if I would have been around people, I would have had that association, 5 or 10 years ago, what relationships could have been saved, what relationships could be stronger. But it applies not just in business, but on my marriage, my kids, friendships, previous businesses, all of that. It just, I don't know. I'll probably listen to it again today, just to go back through my notes. This is one that I would just, I might just start giving to people. Say, hey, this is what we need to learn. This is, on my team. This is what I need. I need for you to know where I'm coming from. It's not that I'm forcing you to like me. I'm not forcing you to want to become, to have this resolution. But, with this knowledge, does that little fire feel different?
No, absolutely. I mean, and that's very good points. And the resolution, conflict resolution series that Orrin puts out is so important. And it doesn't matter whether you're in this business or it's just life in general. We have it at work. And I think it was Beth that said, gossiping is probably the worst part of a conflict, because what does that do? It just keeps flaming that fire. And if somebody's coming to you with gossiping about somebody else, this is where, as a leader of your leg, you need to stand up and say, and edify the person that is being gossiped about, and put that flame out, and get rid of that fire, because all that's going to do is if you buy into it, that flame just got bigger, and if somebody else buys into it, it just gets bigger. And then next, you got a massive forest fire on your hands, and it just is hard to put out until everything's burned up. So no, good points, both Angie and Beth. Thank you. Anybody else? Josh, you're up.
Perfect. Yeah, one thing that I really liked that he said in here was just all relationships require effort. And I think that's something that, even people you're on really good terms with, it still requires effort, and in a good way. I mean, that's the way that we nurture our lives through our relationships, and it makes a big difference just understanding that it's not always an easy road. People go through tough things in their life, when they need support, and sometimes, they're not maybe in a particular position where they're feeling great, and maybe some of the conflict that's coming up is arising from other issues in their lives, and they're kind of just misdirecting where that is. So it's important to kind of almost diagnose where the conflict's coming from, because if you don't exactly figure out like what is causing the conflict, then it's really hard to figure out how to fix it. Same type of scenario with a goal. If you don't have a goal, like Angie mentioned, if you don't know where you're going, then it's hard to get there type of scenario. And one other thing that I got to thinking, because I really like the personality type stuff, and I was thinking just about how this applies in in my daily life. And like, I live in a very cleric household. I'm like a secondary cleric and my wife's primary. So like the way that we resolve issues, actually, we just like it to be very straightforward, kind of go toe to toe. Let's make sure each other hears each other out, and then figure out the best option. I think sometimes for people that we like doing that, like it works for us. We just know where each other's at. But I think sometimes like you have to know who you're talking to and how you're going to approach an issue, though, because if I were to take that same approach with some other people, that say I was dealing with a phlegmatic personality or someone that I could really hurt their feelings, and it wouldn't be as direct of a, like if I approach it so directly, then I may end up with a problem. So it's good when you're resolving conflict to also understand Litauer's personality types, and that's just one of my favorite things. And let's see if the other thing that I wrote down here is just that a lot of times when people make a commitment, like and Orrin mentioned this, sometimes people use conflict as a way out. Like they're constantly, and look for this in people that you're talking to, they're constantly putting like little landmines essentially in things just so that they can go blow one up if they want out, basically. So as you're nurturing relationships and building them, kind of make sure that you're laying a solid groundwork, and just notice if people are, if they're shying away is probably not the best way to think about it, but if they're sabotaging, that's probably a better word. Definitely been in, had friends who would just want to put a little sabotage in there just so that they don't have to feel any fault maybe at the end, or they can get out, or they don't have to commit. And that's one thing that I thought was really helpful about this audio, is that it pointed out that conflict's not always because you're angry at someone or because like someone did something to you. It often can be something that you just use as an excuse, and sometimes you got to figure, if you're dealing with someone you're having conflict with, it like Orrin mentioned too. It's you got to get down to kind of the base of the problem and figure out what actually is causing the conflict, and make sure you're not just spending your time on essentially the symptoms, for lack of a better word, the symptoms of the conflict. Make sure you're dealing with the actual cause of the conflict.
No, absolutely. And for me, over this last probably month, I've realized that, I've got two children. One's 23 and the other one's 20. And I've got to learn to treat them like adults. And we had a nice conversation yesterday with my son, and realized that I don't treat them with the respect that they deserve. I still treat them like they're my 5 and 3-year-old, and because that's maybe sometimes what I remember. But it is a tough thing as knowing who you're dealing with, and as a leader, Orrin says you're going to make apologies a lot, because you're going to make the mistakes, and that's kind of what I was talking with my son last night, and we were talking about the past, and started to, realize that, I screwed up a couple of times as a parent. I know it's shocking, but as a parent, I did make a mistake once. So, so anyways, anybody else, last minute? All right. Oh, Russ, you're on the air.
Okay. Yeah, I was liking how he was pointing out, like when you're going into like confronting somebody, I've been guilty of this in the past myself, and it made me think, because I'm not good at that conflict. But he said you should be going into talking with the person as a point of resolving it when you're talking about it, how you can resolve it, not just, I need to get my point across to you, why don't you understand? You know what I'm saying? Things go a little bit smoother that way. But yeah, I like that point that he pointed out too, besides all the other ones. And I could agree with Angie and Beth that, yeah, this really is a CD that could be for everybody, and it's not just for the business. It can help you out in your family, at work, wherever. Anybody could use it to better themselves and get through a lot more things. So
Very, very true. So I mean, and Angie, she had a great point. If you don't plan, having that conflict. If you're the person that's been, that has that issue, you need to have a plan of how you're going to deal with it. And what's your goal from that discussion? Is it to make it worse, or to get the flames put out and move forward? And take the positiveness. And a lot of people go into the conflict with that emotion, and it just escalates because, like you said, Russ, and even in the book, people don't know how to deal with conflict sometimes, and it's an emotional charge, and most of the times I feel when emotions involved, it does blow up. I mean, it just turns into a raging fire. And so, the intellectual part of you has got to slow it down and make those steps to address your point and then come to a conclusion. So, Angie, I saw your hand go up. Hold on.
Yeah. I know we're getting short on time, but that it also ties into, I remember sitting listening to Chris Swanson in Kansas City, and his big, aha moment with his marriage, and the lies and the gossip and all of that, how that could have just snowballed. And I think of all the marriage pacts and, the faith pacts and things that are almost serve as like a shield and it is, in essence, it's our plans, having that knowledge base and having that, what is that first gut reaction? Well, if you haven't planned for any of these things, that's when things just fall apart, and sometimes resolution is hard. So, and like you said, not just in the business, but if your customers, approaching customers for a customer base, like the Edge series or the marriage packs, their plans, it's natural disaster plans for life. You look at that and think, okay, well, if that would have happened in my marriage, or if this would have happened for my kids, and that's, my biggest fear is, what's going to happen when this happens. It's not if it's going to happen, it's when it's going to happen. And having those communication lines, and how I teach my daughter that, if all you're watching is fantasy and different, things that's not really real, when you are faced with those fears and faced with those conflicts, what do you have to reach into? What tool bag do you have to reach into if you have never, you don't have a plan for that? Nobody plans to fail. I mean, no one truly goes out and says, okay, I'm going to get married, but I'm going to make sure that I'm going to ruin this marriage within a year, or I'm going to make sure that that I'm going to fail at this. No one truly goes into it that way, but no one has a toolbox set up for that. You go on a long trip and you put a first aid kit together because, you're not planning on your kids cutting their feet open, but it's potentially going to happen. So we do that for little things, but in life we don't. And so I think this whole CD just opens the door to so many of our other, our packs. And and I'm like this for almost every CD. And I hope I never, down the road, listen to a CD and go, yeah, I kind of already knew that. I just love that no matter what I listen to, I just take so much from it, or just that rewind button all the time. And like I told Josh, I said, I've never read so many books where I can't drive, I can't clean, I can't do any of that and listen, because I have to have a paper and pencil, because there's just so many things that I need to remember. And I know that I'll go, okay, well, I'm just going to keep listening to those CDs so I remember the stories. But until I've listened to them so many times that it's part of my self-conscious and my response, I have to be writing it down. And there's nothing else in what, when you listen to music, you just listen to it. I'm actually having to write those things down all the time. And so, yeah, the other thing I was going to say is the clarity. Giving the whole idea about quoting somebody on or complimenting on somebody on it. I know that, past conflicts that I've thought have been, the resolution had already been there, or I had already made peace with whatever decision it was, whether we both agreed that there was not a relationship there to resolve. It was, it was just a business thing, and professionally that was done. How one little spark, one little gossip, or one little person can come and reignite that flame, and it doesn't come back as a small flame. When you have a fire that's going out and somebody just throws gas on it, it just kabooms, and it takes you right back to that initial spot. And having the clarity of being able to give a compliment or just say, having something ready, especially when you're fresh out of a conflict, when someone is there and they don't necessarily mean to harm it or to mean to flame those, to fan the flames, but to have something to say, we're good. We're past this. And just, I can't wear a shirt that just says, I'm no longer in that conflict, or, check, done, checkmate. I'm already done. That game's done. That game's over. It's so hard because you can't wear a shirt that says, I'm no longer willing to participate in this part of that conflict, or this conflict is done. You just can't wear a card. I don't know. And it's happened so often that, especially if you were part of that community, and I will own up to that completely, that it was so much easier to nurture the pain instead of, or to nurse the pain instead of nurturing the relationships, that when there's something going on, or if somebody comes back in and doesn't realize that relationship has been healed or nurtured, when they come back into it and say, try to get you to talk back into it, it's so easy to fall back into those bad habits. But like Josh says, if you create those good habits, you won't. But when you're still in that learning mode, just being able to say, I'm going to take a stand. I'm not energizing any of that negativity anymore. Just having the tools and just wearing the tools and having it until it just becomes part of your daily thought process.
Oh, awesome points. Dawn, Josh, can you unclick?
Which 920 is she?
No, she's in 1525. She's the one waving her hand at you.
Oh, okay, up in the corner. My bad. I thought it was a phone number. Okay, let's see. INSP. I'll find you. There, got it.
Dawn, you're on the air. Dawn, we can't hear you. We can't.
You may have a microphone off on the computer or something.
Can you hear me now, John? I'm on my phone. Okay.
Oh, perfect.
I cannot figure out the laptop, so. Okay. What I was going to say is great job, everybody. I think they were a lot of great points. The one point that I really thought was great that Orrin mentioned was, he talked about Chris Brady and George Gazzardo. He said, they've been in business 15, 20 years together. And he said, if you don't think that we've had problems along the way, but he said because of resolving the conflict, their relationship got stronger. So I think, that's really important too. When you choose to resolve the relationship, your relationship grows. And like John said, you're always going to have conflict. We're in a people business. So.
Yeah, no, very true. And that's where, as you build a relationship with your team knows that they can come to you no matter what it is, and knowing that there isn't a malicious intent, as I go back to saying that now as a team or as individuals, you're trying to resolve that conflict. And so, and one of the things that I talked about with this conflict we had here, is that we immediately go to the negative thing, like, well, you stole something, rather than saying, hey, you know, when you moved, did you by chance took this package and, or, you know, by accident it went here. We immediately go to a negative side, and I think that has got a victim mentality. And so, you know, if you play that victim role, it becomes very, you know, a negative compassion or feeling, you know, like a little comfort, because, you know, then somebody will feel sorry for you. And really that's not what it resolving about is like I think Angie said earlier, is like, you know, if you don't, you think it's resolved, but yet that flame's not out and it's just smoldering, you know, there, and somebody comes along and kicks it open, and then it blows back up to where like, I thought this was done. You know, I've forgotten about it. You know, I've moved on, but those individuals that haven't. So, well, oh, Josh, you're up.
Yeah, this will be really short. I know we're kind of running a little low on time here, but at the same time, I like to facilitate the discussion. As long as people keep having stuff to say, I want to make sure that everyone gets to speak. But I just want to play off of what Russ said, and something I hadn't heard mentioned that I thought was a big point. Was simply that if you go through that 5 steps that he mentioned, like first affirming the relationship, but the second one, I mean, it's the window into a lot of things we do, and that's listening. Seeking first to understand rather than be understood. I mean, the amount of times that people try to get their point across first, and they feel like they need to dominate the conversation instead of listening first. I mean, that's a great way to cause a conflict without either person knowing even what's going on, and it just being a misunderstanding. So, and obviously listening then, I mean, that's, like I said, that's a window into so many different discs. Like you'll hear that over and over, how important listening is. Whether we be talking about listening to a prospect and their dreams, or whether we be talking about listening to someone's side of a conflict or whatever. I mean, that is just a flat out life skill.
Or listening to your wife vent and not trying to fix it. Yeah.
Don't fix it. Yeah, that's hard, man.
All right. Well, hey, I appreciate it. Everybody got great input. You know, this topic, you know, we could go on for hours. I mean, this could be something we bring back again and again, and you know, because again, we're all human. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to see other conflicts. And so I appreciate everybody being on the call this morning, and have a happy 4th of July. I'm headed to the mountains and actually getting in my boat for the first time in like 2 years. So I'm excited about that. You know, yeah, Russ, you need to be jealous because I saw your picture with Dan. I know. So this is my turn. So, all right, everybody, have a good weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
Well, when we're done. I mean, just so we don't forget more.